Hey everybody, what's up? So I want to talk about an interesting movie called Dark City. If you've not seen this movie yet, don't listen to what I'm about to say, because there are spoilers ahead. Ha 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 ha! Dark City is one of the most interesting movies that I've ever seen. It came out right before The Matrix did. If you've not heard of this movie, or if it's I didn't hear about it being in the theaters, especially where I live. It wasn't here, so I don't know if it wasn't that big of a thing. The vast majority of this film, I guess, was filmed in Australia. One thing that I was going to do, and I decided not to, is that there was actually a comparison to this movie to another movie from the 1920s called Metropolis. Unfortunately, a lot of the versions of Metropolis I could find really aren't the best. There's a lot of changes that have been made, and because I'm not seeing the original theatrical release, and I guess because of high censorship, there's a chunk of the movie that got taken out. So because of all the different versions and everything else like that, I decided not to go into it. Now, I watched about 20 minutes, and that's all I could, well, 10, 15 maybe, of a version of Metropolis, and I couldn't stand it because it was just like depressing and just it didn't make sense, and there was nothing going on. But it was a silent film. H.G. Wells, the science fiction writer, actually gave the movie a bad review. But in Dark City, you can see hints of architecture from every era, and I think that's part of what people might be referring to, because in Dark City they show this different type of architect. What is the first thing you have to understand is, why is it called Dark City? If you're watching this and you don't care about the spoilers, whatever, fine. I'm going to explain it. Ultimately, you find out that there's no sunlight in the city. The sun never rises and never sets. We'll get to that reason here in a little bit. That's what I contribute to being called Dark City. Now, it opens up with an introduction by a guy by the name of Dr. Schreiber, who's telling us about the Strangers, this group of aliens that basically takes over corpses. Nothing new there, right? Who are basically looking to figure out the human condition, because the Strangers are actually on the verge of extinction. And the weird thing is, Schreiber at one point says he doesn't know where the people in the city came from, but in the beginning he talks about they found a blue planet. How would he know this if he hadn't heard it? He's a psychologist, and basically the Strangers allow for him to keep some of his memories, some he's not allowed to. He basically has to erase part of his own mind. They need his help. What they do is they go around and they mix and match people's lives. They basically they can ruin it if you want. That's what happens. A guy by the name of John Murdoch wakes up in a bathtub with no memory of what's going on. It turns out that every great once in a while, what'll happen to be, while the Strangers are imprinting you with new memories, you'll wake up and you won't fall back asleep. They basically make the entire city fall asleep. They change things around just so that they can experiment on the people of the city, and they have no clue what's going on. So Murdoch gets this phone call. Hey, you left your wallet down at the automat, which, if you don't know, an automat basically at one point was like a group of vending machines that people would basically be behind the scenes making the food, putting food in these windows. You put your money and you press a button, and you just take the food. There is a lot of mix and match architecture in this movie, largely, because of the fact that the Strangers seem to have stolen people from different time frames or something like that. Nothing's ever really clear. And the odd thing is, how do I want to say this? They're very creepy. They don't explain. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it here. They don't really explain certain things about the Strangers. Like, for example, Schreiber will go to a pool just so he can be away from them because they don't like to be there. Turns out that the Strangers are actually a collective mindset, and John Murdoch, the hero, anti-hero, whatever you want to call him, of the movie, is one of the people that's waking up, and they want to know what's going on because he has this ability called tuning. Sorry, tuning. Trying to arrange the camera just right. Which only the strangers have, which is basically like a telepathic thing. And he wakes up to find that there's a dead prostitute in his room. Yay, dead prostitutes! Just kidding. Joke. Don't condemn anyone. Don't want anyone killing prostitutes, okay? Don't do it. They work hard too to make their money, so yeah. But yeah, so dead prostitute's in the room. She's got these like swirl marks on her. As you continue in the movie, you start seeing these swirl marks show up in other places, and he keeps thinking about a place. So he finds a suitcase. Inside there's a postcard that says Shell Beach, and he has like these flashbacks. So the strangers are basically trying to study the mind of a murderer, and that's what they try to create. And Murdoch basically somehow woke up. It's not really explained. Schreiber claims that he woke up while he's imprinting him, so that's why he doesn't have all his memories. But it turns out Schreiber doesn't want to work for the strangers anymore. So Murdoch basically flees and ends up running across a few strangers. He tunes, and one of them ends up dying. And it's like the back of his head goes off, and you see this weird thing crawl out and explodes. And then that's when we see there's a whole lot more of these dudes. And we're introduced to the one stranger that anyone will figure out what movie he's from, what famous movie he's from. Really as famous as it should be, but Mr. Hand. Played none other than by Richard O'Brien, who played, ding ding, you're right, Riff Raff in Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'd actually seen this movie before I saw Rocky Horror, and dude, they picked that man perfectly because he's the creepiest. Only seconded to this little kid, who is by far creepier, maybe creepier than him in some cases, but that kid is creepy. They're all like, they have that corpse complexion because they're a collective mind. And the weird thing is they don't have normal names. It's Mr. Book, Mr. Hand, Mr. Quick. So they don't have original names. They just took like words from the English dictionary. It goes, I'll be Mr. Quick, I'll be Mr. Hand. I was waiting for something really screwy, actually, to be honest. Something a little perverted, but that's just me. So they want to find Murdoch, who we find out is also going to find his wife, who cheated on him, and that's the reason why he's killing these prostitutes. Bullcrap. That's the story. So meanwhile, this detective is looking for him, and there's another detective who went totally batshit crazy. And he's telling everybody, hey, look, this is not real. We're not who we are. Okay? We're all make-believe. We're all personalities. Everything about us is made up. And he ends up by jumping in front of a subway train. The thing is, the strangers are looking for what makes us human. And with Murdoch being able to tune, they decide that they want him. And so they decide they need somebody to find him, and they ended up imprinting Mr. Hand with his memories. The problem is Mr. Hand goes a little bit unstable and decides that he is going to carry on Murdoch's work. Yeah. Somebody slept with my wife. I'm going to kill somebody. Win 10 bonus points if you guess what movie that's from. Also, an extra 10 bonus points if you you can tell me what movie my Bell Brooks that was spoofed in. So, moving on. So the strangers keep tuning the city. At one point, Murdoch is part of, notices everything going on. Everybody goes, they just fall asleep. Everybody falls asleep while this is happening. the Schreiber basically is making, these deals that you can print in people. They show a family that's completely changed, and I don't know. It's really weird because like it's constant night, and you're trying to figure out how do they keep these people alive for one, how do they keep them from reproducing too, because it's a really, really, really huge city that they show. Like seriously, they do. God, what happens is they end up this detective played by William Hurt and Murdoch takes Schreiber. They're going to go to Shell Beach. They find this big wall. Nobody knows how to get to this. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's all over the city. They start breaking into this wall. Murdoch tunes, and the wall explodes. The inspector ends up flying into space with one of the strangers. And that's when we get a grasp of what the city looks like. And underneath are these giant machines that the strangers have basically been using to fix things, to create the city, to move things around, to do their study. And it's just like, this is a lot of work. For what? One person? Because in the end, you're going to get imprinted with all their memories. And Schreiber basically has figured out a way to get John, to be so powerful that he will beat and destroy the strangers. But that's up to him. In the end, it's, he still has to make that choice regardless. But yeah, it's really weird. I mean, it's the odd thing about this movie is that they're looking for the soul, and everybody's talking about the memories not play a part of the soul. And I will love what John says, Mr. Hand, is that you're looking in the wrong place, and he knows even with the memories and that, no matter where his wife is, because in the end his wife ceases to exist, is that because the imprinter was somebody else. She said, "I love you," and he goes, "I know you do." Even though that wasn't his wife, he knows that she'll still love him. And the bad thing is, he realizes, that they set up this family, these memories. The strangers fucked up. Now, pardon me from swearing here. I've only used it twice. I don't swear very often, but this is truth. They majorly screwed up. What ended up happening is they have all these photos of John at Shell Beach, and there was a fire that killed his parents. Now, if you ever think about this, think about it. You basically are trying to set this guy up. Think all this stuff is going on. You have, photos that are recreated, all this stuff. What happens is you have somebody that has a scar that you don't think that they're not going to notice. They're not going to be looking through the slides and go, something's wrong here. By then, they'd probably just, transfer the memories over to another body and frick with stuff. But they create everything. And there's so much that leaves you wondering what's going on. I still want to know why the strangers have a fear of water. It's like Mr. Hands talking to me, goes, "We don't like these places. We don't like so much moisture." In that very creepy voice of his. But yeah, it's one of the weirdest movies I've seen by far, and I've seen a lot of weird stuff. Well, actually, no way, I couldn't call it that weird. I saw Tokyo Gore Police. You want to watch a weird movie? That's it. Why is my hair standing up? I don't like that. Get down. But yeah, definitely worth a watch. If you still watch this and you go, okay, I want to see what he's talking about, go ahead and watch it. If you're one of those people who goes, oh my god, I can't believe I watched this and there were spoilers, I warned you. Now Godzilla come for you. But there is something else I want to point out about Dark City. I gotta say this, and somebody's probably just gonna get pissed off at me. Rufus Sewell played John Murdoch. His wife was played by Jennifer Connelly. Note to any movie producer: if you're gonna have a character that's singing, make sure you have somebody that can sing. I'm sorry, I didn't think she could carry a tune. Now, I do love, and I don't get this. This is one thing that bugs me. How the frick? It takes all these strangers. You just see all these strangers, and they do the tuning and blah 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 blah. Right? They do all this stuff. How is it one guy can be imprinted with enough power to where he can tune? Basically, this is the memory. Flashback, flashback, flashback. There's all these flashbacks. How is it that he has enough power within him to do everything that it took and I mean all of these strangers to do? It makes no sense. Why this one guy? Why was it him that was picked by Schreiber to do this? It makes absolutely no sense. But he creates all these memories for John. You also wonder, was his waking up during the tuning part of what Schreiber had intended, that what he first injected him with was to actually, allow for him to do this, because the tuning doesn't put you to sleep. Now, the guy who he meets that had also woken up didn't have the ability to tune. They don't explain how people just wake up during the tuning, because it knocks, unless their power is not that great to where they can just tune and they're putting so much energy into it that somebody slips through the cracks. Okay, but why Murdoch? Why him? And this detective, nobody was coming for him, but he knew about the strangers. He knew about all this stuff. There's some left unanswered questions there, and I just wish that they had gone through some stuff. The water deal isn't that big of a thing, but it kind of been interesting to know. It is a good movie. It is worth checking out. I will agree with that. It did take me a couple times through watching it to really get a lot of the clues that they had left, because there's just so much in one screen sometimes. It just everything. You're like, pause, okay, looking around, especially when you go to the detective and you see his house in this one room where he's drawing stuff in, and you're like, wait, didn't I see that? And you go back, like, why did they make the swirl designs in the hookers when they were cut? Why was he drawing the swirl designs on his walls? There was no significance really put there. I mean, it's like, yeah, he talks about there being an endless loop where he's tried to get out of the city, where he's been through every inch of it, but there's no escape. Is that really what the swirls, indicate? I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things that got left unanswered to me. If you know, or if you have any ideas, please share. But that's it, guys. I'll talk to you later. Like I said, the game reviews are coming up. I'm still going to stick with some movie reviews, though. I kind of want to start doing these a little bit more and some other stuff as well, just simply because of the fact that talking about video games all the time gets a little boring for me, because I do like to talk about other things. I do love my games, don't get me wrong, but I do need other things to talk about as well, because I feel like it's too one-dimensional for myself. I love watching other people talk about different stuff, but overall, yeah, that's just the way it's going to be. I'm just going to try to change things around, do video games, movies, whatever. But that's it, guys. I'll take it till later. Take care. Bye.